Triple B's in the building. Big Baller Brand supports the NBA Buzz and the Inside Buzz. We with you, man. Triple B style.
Episode 27 includes Jay Hernandez, a former Hofstra University standout, former professional basketball player, and currently an assistant coach for the Charlotte Hornets, and now a head coach for the Greensboro Swarm, the Hornets G-League team, who's currently in the NBA G-League bubble in Disney in Florida. I'm Mikey Domagala, host of Inside Buzz, and from one Long Islander to another, myself and Jay will talk about his basketball career, his extremely impressive journey of being a player to playing professional basketball to creating his own company and eventually making it to the NBA as a coach. Of course, we'll talk about his Charlotte Hornets, his relationship with the players, front runner for Rookie of the Year LaMelo Ball, and much, much more. His 20-year journey of starting out as a high school player and eventually getting to the NBA as a coach is extremely inspiring and really shows that hard work truly pays off. Alright, Jay, welcome to episode 27 of Inside Buzz. From one Long Islander to another, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time.
I appreciate it. It's it's great to see you doing so well, man. And like I said, it's just the beginning, which is awesome to see, and glad to be on here.
Right now, you're reporting live from the NBA bubble in Disney. How's that going? And really, how was it getting the news that you're going to go from an assistant with the Hornets to the head coach of the Swarm, and you having to quarantine in the bubble?
Yeah, actually, it's been going really, really well here. I think it's the environment's been great. Coronado Springs and where we are has been phenomenal. I think the G League's done a really, really good job of putting this together. The competition is at an all-time high, from a G League perspective. Teams that didn't opt in, have players that are playing here with other teams on flex assignments. Obviously, the NBA vets, roster guys. So, and a lot of up-and-coming young talent. So, super competitive. The coaches here are doing a really, really good job of implementing systems, with minimal time. And the games have been really, just a lot of fun to watch, So for me, being here, I wasn't really sure what to expect. For me, it was just an opportunity for our team to grow, for us as a Hornets franchise to continue to develop, our young talent. We're a team that doesn't take on flex assignments or do those things. We make sure we have 8 rookies, and we're trying to make sure that those guys develop into an asset for the Hornets. A guy that can go ahead and play meaningful minutes, and we've had that over the years. Malik Monk and Devontae Graham, the Martins. You go down the list. Jalen McDaniels, of guys that have played in the G and come right back and been able to give us some really quality minutes. That's really what we use it for, and it's been a huge thing, huge asset for our organization. For me personally, it's something that I've been wanting to do for a while. Sometimes you can get into a rut, being in the NBA and just getting comfortable. And for me, anytime I'm feeling comfortable, it makes me uneasy. I want to make sure that I'm growing and getting better. And I say it all the time, it fulfilled a want and a need for me. It's like I wanted to coach, but I also needed the head coaching reps in order to get better, in that light and build confidence in myself and see the things that I thought could work, are actually working, in live game scenarios. And so when you're sitting in the seat now, it's like, all right, well, you had a lot to say when you're an assistant. Now, try to pull the trigger and see if it's going to work as a head coach. And we've done some of those things, and, we're learning a lot right now, and it's stuff that I'll be able to take back with the Hornets. So talked to Coach Borrego and told him that I really wanted to try to do this, especially within the season. It worked out well because I could still travel, still do my assistant duties with the Hornets, and then take the 6 weeks to try to improve as a head coach and really help our young guys that are part of the roster, and then finish out the last, second half of the season with the Hornets. So I'm doing double duty this year, and it's the way I like it. It's just, I'm used to it from being an entrepreneur and, having to wear a lot of hats. And I think the management team and coaching staff, they've all been phenomenal with trying to help me and be a resource for me while I've been here. And, I couldn't have asked for anything more.
Everyone has heard about the bubble, the constant COVID tests, the strict rules, the food, being away from family for so long. How have you dealt with all that?
They've got it down, down packed. It's every day we have our testing time when we go in. We fill out a questionnaire, a quick little questionnaire. That's an app that we have on our phone. The food services are available to us. They have snacks and everything. So I feel like from a standpoint of, doing it the right way, the NBA, the G League, they figured it out. Again, we've knock on wood, no cases, from the first bubble to this bubble. So, just from a standpoint of not stopping play and allowing everybody this opportunity to get out here and do this, I think it's been phenomenal. I know when I was with the Hornets, we were testing twice a day. We were coming in the morning, and then we'd come back at night and test again. And, it's just something that we've grown accustomed to. And, in order to, participate the way we need to, these are things that we have to deal with. And, as part of our health and safety protocol. And, I think everybody would take getting tested every day and doing the things that we have to do right now in order to play the game that we love. And so, I think everybody's very appreciative and fortunate, to be in this situation right now.
Plenty of young talent on that Swarm roster of yours. Vernon Carey, Kobe Simmons, Nick Richards, Jalen McDaniels, Schofield, and so many others. Now, the NBA G-League, you could be putting up a ton of numbers and not get a call-up. But then there's some guys who are glue guys and really specialists who will get the call-up. You're the master developer. What does an NBA player have to do to get a call-up from the G-League?
Yeah, I think it depends on your franchise. I think a lot of it is what are the key concepts for your team? What can you? For us, it's playing in snap mentality, 0.5 mentality. Drive, kick, swing is a big thing that the Hornets do. So defensively, can you defend and lock in that way and know the coverages and be vocal on the court? So I think for a lot of the guys in the G League, it's less about putting up major numbers, because I think there's been a lot of guys that have put up major numbers in the G League and never really had that chance to get the call up. So I think if you're working within, like us, if you're working within the confines of the organization, you have to start getting really good at, what are the key concepts, from that organization. Can you impact winning or impact the game in 8 minutes is the real question. If they feel like if you're just a volume shooter, that's putting up 25 points a game, we have enough guys that do that, so I think a lot of times is, trying to figure out how you can be the best version of yourself. Obviously you want to come out here and play well in the G League. A guy like Devontae would need to put up some points, or Malik Monk for sure. But I think the organization and the coaches are looking at, in general, are they figuring out, how to play the game that we want to play? Even if the process doesn't result in a made basket, did they get in the lane and they had 3 guys guarding them? Did they kick it to the corner, for a wide open 3? And if you're doing that consistently, we know with the guys that you have with the Hornets that Terry Rozier or Gordon Hayward are going to knock down that shot. So it's you might only show that you were out there and had 4 assists, but you made the right play 15 times. That's something that we can see translating to getting minutes at the NBA level. So a lot of that is really stuff that we're focusing in on here now, just trying to get guys comfortable with calling out coverages, being in the right coverages, and doing the little things over and over again, because that's, if you're great at basic, then you're going to be great overall, by the end of the game. And that's what we're trying to preach.
I'll say it right off the bat. I see your guy, Vernon Carey, the former Duke standout who's really been putting up numbers for you in the G League, a bunch of 25, 30-point performances. I see him being the next Charlotte Hornets star big man. He's 6'9", fits that mold of a very, high-talented, unique, and versatile center. Tell me about him, and when will we see him in the Hornets rotation in a concrete role with the team?
Yeah, like Vernon has been awesome. He's doing everything we ask of him. He's taking extra sessions with whiteboard sessions that we have, watching film. He's been getting his work in every day, working on his low post plus his shooting. And he's versatile. Like you said, he's got good hands. He's got a great touch. Little things like from game 1 to now, like instead of just running to space, he's running to find a body, and he's making them have to guard him. So now if he pulls in a guard with him, it opens up the threes for us on the perimeter. If they're trying to bump him out, try to get a big down there to bump out, he's creating driving lanes. And then he's also just, deep sealing guys and getting the ball deep in the post and scoring, getting fouled. So that's been a big thing that we've seen already from him. Obviously, defensively, he's getting much better. I think that's one of the harder things for rookie bigs to get really good at in the NBA, is that actually be able to identify what plays are coming based on alignments. And so, it takes game reps to see these things happening, whether it's, here comes Chin, here's Pistol, I've got to call this coverage or that coverage and be the backline guy. So, that's one of the areas we've got to get him, continuously getting better at is vocalizing those things and then being in those right positions from a team defensive standpoint. I think he does a really good job, holding his ground one-on-one and doing those things. He's strong. So yeah, again, it's whenever you're dealing with an NBA franchise, it all comes down to just when your number's called, it's just to be ready and show that you can do those things. And we've seen that over and over again, whether it was guys that played in the G-League or, we had guys that were low minute, no minute guys that we were, playing pickup with and doing extra drill work with that got their name called. And then all of a sudden they gave us really valuable minutes. And that's happened, year in and year out during the Borrego era with the Hornets. So, I think he's going to put pressure on coach at some point for sure. And then it's going to be coach's decision to see what he wants to do.
And I heard right before the bubble began in that quarantine process, you had a lot of motivational speakers come in and talk to the guys. Who were some of those guys who came in?
We started with Joe Perry, sports psychologist, because I knew, that how important that was going to be, the mental aspect. Obviously, being in a bubble format, and it's being away from family, like you said, is super difficult. I know it's really difficult for me. It's after a tough loss or maybe not playing or whatever, you can't just go out to your favorite restaurant or go meet with a friend. You're back at the cafeteria with the team that you just lost against, and probably seeing coaches that you want to take a break from. But, so we wanted to make sure that they knew they had a resource there to talk to, which was huge. We had Rajah Bell talk to everybody. He's somebody that I had a chance to train, while he was playing. Great guy, just a great, again, motivational story there, just from an undrafted guy playing at small schools, getting cut in his first NBA gig, but, was just a true pro and, got Popovich on the side and said, okay, well, I'm going to recommend you to Philly. And we went to Philly, took 2 10-day contracts, played well in the playoffs, and the rest is history. He had some great stories about the Phoenix Suns days, Kobe Bryant. So it was awesome talking to him. We had, it was just like ongoing. Chris Romolo, who wrote a book, Champions Uprising, former Muay Thai champion, lost his house and business to Tropical Storm Sandy, and then just recently lost his business again to COVID. So he had some things to talk about. We had J. Cole came on and talked to the guys. Unbelievable stories about how he went into the music industry, thought he was going to have a major record deal by the time he got out of college. Told some just unbelievable stories, and really broke down some knowledge on social media for our guys as well. He kind of touched on a lot of things, and our guys were really, locked in, to him, obviously. We had Coach Borrego come on and talk, and, we had it was a slew of people that came on, and it was just, it was awesome to see just everybody kind of came from different backgrounds, but, we talk about the fighter mentality was prevalent for everybody, in terms of what they had to fight through to get to where they were and what they wanted to get out of life. And, even when things weren't going right, they just still had that mentality to keep fighting. And, I think that was a great message for our guys to hear, especially with an 11-day quarantine and knowing that we were going to be, in a 6-week bubble, just to kind of maintain, who you are and what your goals are in the future to see that, keep your eye on the prize kind of thing. So it was really, really cool.
So right now, of course, you're in the bubble, but let's take it back to the beginning on Long Island where it all began. Man, you've had a really, really impressive story. Take me through being a high school player, getting to Hofstra, working a regular job, having to quit to really take up basketball full time, and eventually getting noticed to go into the NBA.
I come from a basketball background. My father played 13 years professionally in Puerto Rico, was on the national team there at one point in time. So I was there from about 2.5 to 7 years old. So I can remember watching my father play and being in that environment as a ball boy mascot, running around the court with my little uniform and shooting. And then, again, coming back to Long Island and just growing up there was great. Just being a Suffolk County kid at that point in time, I was all over, kind of playing everywhere. I was going to Dowling College at the time, playing with college guys when I was in middle school, high school, just not necessarily playing with them, but, getting to run on the track with them and just, shoot around and just be around the environment with the Joe Pelican and Mike Voyak there. Go to Sayville and play pickup there, Santa Mauritius, and all the different spots that were out there. And then I ended up commuting to St. Dominic and Oyster Bay from Bayport, which was about an hour drive each way. And so, it was a commitment that I made. it was a basketball heavy school at the time. There was no football, so basketball kind of reigned supreme there. And when I went there and visited, I played one-on-one with Jimmy Sheehy, who was the point guard, that I played with all those years, and went to Williams College and had a great career. I just fell in love with it. Tom Tarantino, who was the head coach there, embraced me and said, "Listen, we'll figure it out. Like, if I have to drop you off," which he did at times, at a gas station on like exit 58 off the LIE, and my parents would pick me up there at like 9:30 at night after practice or whatever, and get up super early with the teacher and drive in. Be up and ready to go by 5:45. So it really taught me a lot in terms of like time management, and if you really want something, that you'll figure out a way to get it done. And I think it just set the tone for me, and I became a better student because I started really prioritizing, when I need to get my stuff done. I couldn't be messing around. And St. Dominic at the time was phenomenal. It was one of the best programs, premier programs around. I mean, from a Long Island Catholic League standpoint, there was, almost a Division I player on every roster, during that time period. We played the top teams in the city at that time. And, we were playing against, Christ the King every year, Malloy. Played Rice High School and had Felipe. We played against Shamgod, when he was at LaSalle. You name it. We weren't ducking anybody. We had some great matchups and games with everybody. And, I played with some talented guys. Like I said, we had a bunch of guys that ended up, walking on to major Division I programs, playing high level Division III. Jimmy Moran got his jersey retired over in Spain. Played at William & Mary, great career. Sean Kennedy led the nation in assists at Marist when he was in college. Phenomenal player. So we just had a bunch of guys that could just pass, dribble, shoot. And, Coach Tarantino did a great job with us. So, from there, I ended up at New Hampshire for a year, transferred back to Hofstra, which was the best decision I'd made, play under Jay Wright and then get to play with pros. My current coach here, Norman Richardson, played in the pros, Speedy Claxton, obviously, and a whole host of other guys that were phenomenal players, 1,000-point scorers. So, I went through that process, got to go to a couple of postseason tournaments, NIT, and 2 NCAA tournaments. And, it was just a phenomenal ride, for us as a program. So during that time, I was also training kids on the side. My father was the first trainer over at Island Garden in West Hempstead, which was the first like real big facility that opened up in Long Island. People didn't really know what basketball training was. They it sounds funny now because it's so big time, right? Everybody knows what training is, but at that point in time, most of the players in New York is like, I'm already nice. Like, why would I need to pay you to train me, right? Like that was the mentality. So the kids that I started getting early on were kids that were accustomed to tennis lessons and, pitching coaches and those kinds of things, so the parents had a little money and they knew what training was. And I was working on these side baskets over at Island Garden while AAU tournaments were going on. And this is back in 1998. I'm still fresh in college. And, we're working on side basket on the little interlocking mats. It wasn't a wood court or anything like that. And just a little portable hoop. And I was training kids. And so the kids that I was training, I had to break it down to like the most simplest things, in terms of footwork. I had terminology of like when to use these moves, how to use them and why are you using them, and, kind of put a curriculum together. And while I was doing that, it really helped me because when I got with better players down the line, we already had like the freeze pull-up concepts in place or the trigger series and all these things. And then when I had trainers, I was able to coach my trainers on the terminology and, what these moves were and all these kinds of things. So by the time, I got out of, college, I had a pretty good following, but, I realized I needed to have something stable for my family. So I got into admissions with Hofstra. I was a director of strategic planning for like 9 months. I don't even know what I was doing or what it was, but it was a great title. And then I moved into pharmaceutical sales for 2 years. Chris Eldridge, I played at Hofstra, put me in contact with his wife, who was a district manager for a Johnson & Johnson company. And I did that, and I did really well with that. I was a rookie of the year in sales for the Eastern region, and was going hard with that. I had a gas card, a car, benefits, good salary, bonus structure, the whole nine. And I found myself working more on the court than I was in my real day job by the time I got to year 2. So talked to my wife, which was a hard conversation to have. It's like, I want to quit my job. I know we're doing well financially and all this other stuff, and this industry wasn't even existing, in terms of like people running businesses and basketball training and making that their livelihood. So I said, I think I got another chance to go play in Puerto Rico. I had taken 2 years off from playing, got myself in phenomenal shape, went back, played, and then came back to camps and clinics I had already set up. I was like, all right, we have 6 months to make it work. And if it doesn't, then I'll go right back to pharmaceutical sales. I'll be able to get a job again. And yeah, luckily I didn't have to do that. 10 years later, 2004, we started a company called Pro Hoops, and it grew, little by little it grew. And I just kept trying to do it the right way, working crazy hours, finally getting some help. And, by the time we got to years 7, 8, 9, 10, major sponsorship deals with Under Armour, Muscle Milk. We had like 8 lottery picks and a number of NBA guys that were working out with us. And the whole Orlando thing just came out of nowhere, really. It was just one of those things that I think Jock Vaughn had seen the work I did with Tobias Harris, who got traded there. And one of our assistants from Hofstra, Brett Gunning, was also an assistant there at that point in time. So when he asked to go see Tobias's workout, he's like, oh, he's with Jay. Like, I coached Jay. He's in good hands. And so that was nice. And then once, again, our lottery picks were going there to train, for pre-draft workouts, Jock was asking them, like, where are you guys training? Well, we're in Long Island with Jay Hernandez. So he heard that for 2 years as well during that process, because Orlando was in a lottery. And at some point in time, he's just like, I want to have dinner with this guy. I want to see what he's about. So, kind of last game of the season for Orlando, it was like probably in 2000, might have been 2014 for them. And, they had a game in Brooklyn, and we met at an Italian restaurant and sat down, and it was like an informal interview. We just, kind of just chopped it up, talked basketball. And he asked me specifically, why would you even consider the NBA at this point? Your program's so successful. You seem to love what you're doing. And I just told him I missed the competitive aspect. I missed, my work being a result, helping in wins, and feeling that competitive, aspect of things, where when you're training, it's great. You're building great relationships, where you're not directly involved in the wins and losses anymore. So, eventually he gave me that shot, and we ended up talking later, few months later, and he said, listen, we have a position that's open. We'd like you to come down. And at first I didn't think I was going to accept it, because it was in Florida. My wife was a tenured teacher in New York, which is hard to come by. And my daughter was going to be a senior at St. Mary's High School. They were playing for a state championship. They had a really good team. And so I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but I'm going to say yes to everything. Yeah, yes, I'm willing to do it. Yes, yes, yes. And then I'll see what the offer looks like, kind of thing. And then when it got down to it, I was like, you know what? Training is now starting to become very competitive. If I have MBA on my resume, it's almost like having a doctoral degree in basketball. And I signed a 2-year deal. The staff had already been there for 2 years, so I signed a 2-year deal. And I said, let me give it a shot and see what it is. And now here we are in year 7.
Incredible story. And when you played in Puerto Rico, was that after the pharmaceutical job, or was that before?
I did it before, and after I quit my pharmaceuticals, I went back to play. So that's when I took 2 years off from playing, and I was just a salesman. I was literally in a suit, walking around with antibiotics in my bag, walking from doctor's office to doctor's office, trying to get out by 3 o'clock so I could go train from 4 to 10 at night every night. That was my life for a few years before I was able to do it full time.
And early on in the company, who were some of those guys that you trained? I saw Wally Zerbiak was one of the first ones. Later down the line, you had a young Kemba Walker, Tobias Harris, CJ McCollum. Of course, those guys are NBA stars now. Tell me about how you developed those relationships.
I mean, Wally was somebody that I grew up with. He's a Long Island guy. And, we started playing in the summers together with the Leandis brothers. It was 3 brothers that were older than us that, would open up the gym. They pay for a gym and then have these great pickup runs. I mean, they would invite like Kenny Atkinson at the time, who was still playing overseas, and Chris Mullen would come down. We just had a who's list of guys. We had the Vlajanitis brothers, who were Division III All-Americans. So guys that were older than us, that would beat us up, that knew how to play. And I felt like in those games, if you missed a shot, you probably were going to lose. I mean, it was just like lights out. Guys just were setting hard screens. Everybody could make a shot. And it was just great for us. Like, if you felt like if you were welcomed into that environment, for Wally, myself, Jimmy Moran, who started playing there, John Randazzo, welcomed in that environment meant you knew how to play, because they weren't just going to take people that were out there just dribbling 100 times and jacking up shots. They wanted to see, all right, are you defending? Are you knowing how to cut and move and talk and communicate? So it helped me out a lot in my game. And so Wally and I, we did that for years. So we ended up playing in summer league tournaments all throughout his career. You know, while he was an NBA All-Star and everything, we go back to the St. Mary's League and go, you know, play in that, dominate, and just have fun every summer. And it was just great. So like when he got to the NBA, he's like, listen, I know you're training. I need you to help me, you know, with some of my ball handling skills, get my shot off quicker, things like that. You know, can we just get some work in? So that's really how it started, you know, and, you know, he ended up doing a video with me at the time, you know, like an instructional video, and gave me credit for helping him become an NBA All-Star, you know, as a testimonial. Just like very, very gracious, you know, for him to give me that opportunity. He was my first legitimate pro, and it grew from there. Just kind of, you know, again, I wasn't seeking out pros. I think that's the one thing that a lot of young trainers make a mistake on, you know, is like they're out there like, how do I get pros? How do I get pros? I never cared if I had a pro. It was just like whoever's in the gym with me is getting pro-like training. And, you know, I was so appreciative that they were in the gym working with me. And to this day, I have great relationships with all the players that are now doing other stuff and advertising, doctors, lawyers, you name it. And, you know, a lot of the lessons they felt like they learned in there, they take on with them in life. And so it's been really cool. You know, that's the best part of that whole experience. And then from there, it got to just word of mouth. Like Rajah Bell came through John Brennan, who was one of our trainers. They went to BU together. One of our other trainers, Mike Bermucci at the time, had a connection with some guys in Philly and put me in contact with Jameer Nelson. And so I went for one summer. I was getting up at like 4:15 in the morning to drive to Philly to work him out in Chester, PA, you know, at 7 a.m. And then I drive right back to Long Island and do my training for the rest of the night. So I actually just talked to him because he's got a gig with Delaware Blue Coats as an assistant GM and scouting. We were just talking about those times, and then once, you know, that stuff happened, it was good. And then I started having guys that came up the pipeline that ended up going Division I, or, you know, were good enough out of college now to start getting drafted. So Tobias I had known before draft, and we were working together. So his dad, who repped him, said, we want to keep him here with you. And that was like our first real pre-draft class was with Tobias. Charles Jenkins was a guy from Hofstra who I had been training while he was in college as well. And I really believed that he was a pro, you know, and you know, we had him working out with pros before he got into pre-draft, and he just kept getting better and better. So he ended up, you know, coming to pre-draft with us. And then Kemba Walker also came through Excel Sports that year. You know, Sean Kennedy, who I told you I played with, became an agent with Excel Sports, who now has the most money in the NBA with Jeff Schwartz and Sam Goldfeder and them. And so they said, yeah, we'll give him a chance. We already know that you know Kemba, and, you know, we feel comfortable having him come to you. And so those are my guys. All three of those guys got drafted that first year, and then it just snowballed from there. You know, just kept growing and growing, and we ended up doing an exclusive deal with Excel Sports, you know, for the next few years. And you know, they had a ton of guys that were coming through, and just a great relationship to build on. And you know, that's kind of how it took off. You know, we were able to, you know, not only have the business, but we had a not-for-profit that we did. You know, I was running the website at the time. I made my own website. I was editing it every day, and, you know, doing the scheduling and answering phones and all that stuff. So that's why I said it's doing this G League right now reminds me a lot of that, you know, wearing a lot of hats and being accountable for it all. And I love it.
You definitely know the grind for sure. Those years at Hofstra, man, were they special. A couple of trips to the tournament. What were some of your favorite moments from your time at Hofstra?
For sure. I mean, the first thing that stood out was, you know, how we went to the ECAC Holiday Festival and played at Madison Square Garden. And, you know, we ended up that first year that we were in it, it was such a big deal. Just all New York guys, you know, getting to play at the Garden was phenomenal. And we ended up beating a very, very good Georgia Tech team, you know, in our first game. And the next night we beat a UPenn team that went to the NCAA tournament as well, who was really, really talented. And we won the Holiday Festival. And then we ended up winning it the next year. And then we lost in the championship, you know, my third year. But what a great experience. And that kind of started to make us all believe, like, hey, like what Jay and Tom Pecora and everybody's doing here, you know, it's working. You know, we have the talent to compete with anybody across the country. We have the ability, you know, after, you know, 30 years of not being in an NCAA tournament, we finally have an opportunity here to do something special. And, you know, we ended up doing that. Obviously the NCAA tournament playing in those two were huge. You know, again, it was kind of like, you know, it was like we felt like there was a curse that was lifted. And just being a Long Island guy, you know, winning a title right off Hempstead Turnpike, at the Max Sports Complex in front of a sold out crowd, seeing all the high school coaches that, I played against, or guys, that helped me out, family, friends, all that stuff. Those are memories, obviously playing a championship at home, against two really good Delaware teams, really solidified, kind of what we were about, at Hofstra. And, for me, it's more about the relationships. Like we're all so tight to this day. If you see, my social media, a lot of it is always, giving props to Hofstra because, I went there and, it helped develop me as a person. I got a dual MBA in marketing and management while I was there. They looked after me, not only as an athlete, but, again, as a person. They welcomed my family, and, to this day, I'll do whatever I can for them.
I got to tell you, Jay, it's awesome having you on, a fellow Long Islander, and hearing all these Long Island references, because I know exactly where they are, just some places a few miles from my house. Pretty awesome to have you. Another Long Islander who I had, and your former teammate, Speedy Claxton. He was an insane player when he was at Hofstra, of course, turned into a one-time NBA champion, multi-year veteran who really helped out a lot of good teams in the league. How good was he when he was back with you at Hofstra?
Phenomenal. Like I don't think people realize how great he was. I mean, again, just by him being who he is, and I always say motivate each other by the way you work. Like the way he worked motivated me, and we'd have sessions where, I'd be in with him and Norman Richardson. So I am this guy who can barely touch rim, competing, playing one-on-one with these guys. Nobody's giving an inch. I first got there, I had a hard time even getting my shot off around him because his hands were so quick. So, I had to do things technically, like to change the line on my shot. Like I couldn't bring it up like the prototypical, like straight up the line. I had to like adjust and go over the top and do some things, some funky things and stuff that really helped me down the line. And when I've gotten to real game situations, I felt free. I was like, all right, this is as much pressure as I'm going to get in this game, because we were going that hard in practice. And, there was never anything like we wanted to fight each other because we were going so hard. You see that in a lot of instances, like, yo, why are you going so hard? That you're trying to embarrass me or whatever. We were like, no, we're going to get each other better. And we wanted to win every single drill. So with Speedy, I don't know if I've ever seen, even in the NBA now, a guy his size with his type of athleticism. It's unheard of. And, he ended up winning the college slam dunk contest. I mean, his athleticism was by far, his stop and go and just his jumping ability was phenomenal. Now you couple that with a handle, with the intelligence, the work ethic and his toughness, you can see why he was, a champion in the NBA and why he was playing in meaningful games, when it mattered most. And, like I said, to this day, I haven't seen really anybody like him, in person, and guys that I've worked with. He had a different type of skill set. Unfortunately, some injuries, got in the way, with him. But, what he meant to that program and, what he meant to us as players that play with him, it's unmatched. Our confidence going into games, knowing that we had him there on the court with us, was like, all right, we're ready to go.
Is there something that you took from your old head coach, Jay Wright, that you now use today as a head coach?
I think with Jay is he knew exactly what he wanted from his players. He knew what his vision was for the team, and he spoke on it consistently. He just did not. He was relentless with his ability to come at us with doing things the right way over and over again. And I can remember as a captain of the team that if somebody didn't dive on the floor, he was yelling at me. He wanted me to hold other people accountable, and that helped me become a better leader. So at the time I wasn't understanding. I'm like, why are you yelling at me? Like I dove on the floor, like I have bruises everywhere, but that's what he was trying to say is like, you're giving your all, you're a starter on this team. And then we're allowing somebody else to come out here and not give it the same effort. I don't care if we're up by 20 or 30 or down 50. It doesn't matter. We're going to play the same way all the time. And so for him, he's taught me so many valuable lessons. A lot of, again, the mantra for Jay is attitude, because attitude encompasses everything. It's kind of like what I keep talking about in terms of the fighter mentality. Your attitude dictates, how you approach every day, how you handle things and, how you handle people. And so we always said attitude every day. So that's something that always sticks with me. And I can remember when Speedy graduated, we started in the backcourt together, and then I knew that I was going to be the point guard full time the next year. And, he said, like, you're not Speedy, you're Jay, and you have to handle things a little bit differently in the way you handle things. And we're still going to be very successful here, so figure out how to run this team your way. You don't have to live up to Speedy. You don't have to do the things that Speedy did. And that was a big conversation for me. It kind of lessened things for me and realized like, yeah, I'm gonna do this the way I know how to do it best. And we had 8 seniors, that came back, so we knew we were going to be pretty good. Where maybe other people didn't know, outside. They were like, oh, well, you just lost a lottery pick. How good can you guys be this year? And we ended up having a better statistical year in terms of wins that next year because our guys were just locked in. We had balanced scoring, and again, our guys knew the system inside and out. And Jay had an opportunity, I believe, to go to Rutgers, for significantly more money. And I think he already knew in his mind, like at some point I'm gonna be at Villanova, and I'm gonna show everybody that we're gonna win it again, with this group, and that's only gonna elevate my stock that much more. And he knew what we had coming back. We knew what we had coming back, and his ability to bet on himself and know, what he had within the program, what he built was phenomenal. Because again, when he first got there, he was wearing the same types of suits that he's wearing now. Maybe they're a little bit more expensive, but they were still 3-piece suits. He still looked great. He was around, shaking hands, kissing babies, and, doing everything that you needed to do on campus. And they treated it like he was at Duke or North Carolina, right? Like it was just like a big time program, even though really nobody was checking for Hofstra at that point in time. But when I went to New Hampshire, I knew, because they had at that point in time, they had brought in like, Dwayne Posey and Tim Beckett, Stanley Martin, Anthony Davis, and some guys that I knew from the local area. Like, man, those guys are good, like really good. And I go play pickup in the summer with them. And I was like, these guys are going to be really good. And then obviously they picked up Speedy. It was just, I was just like, it's just a matter of time before they blow up. And so when I came back that year that I was able to sit out and be around those guys and play every day, like I said, it got me better because I was practicing against Speedy every single day, one-on-one, having to guard him, being on the scout team. And then I learned, what it took to be, a Hofstra guy, a guy that could play under Jay without being a threat to anybody for playing time, right? I was just getting better. I was working on my game. And then the next year, I just felt like I'm ready to go. The time is now for us to start making some moves. And it was just a fun time, fun group to be a part of.
Jay, tell me about your relationship with Kemba Walker, NBA star for the Boston Celtics right now. You had him before he got to the league, and of course, during your time and his time with the Hornets. How devastating was it when he left and went to Boston?
Yeah, let me put it this way. I'm fortunate in what's happened in my career. Again, I'm not somebody who's ever looked to be in the NBA. Kind of found me. My first job, I was able with Orlando link up with Tobias Harris there, who was part of, again, I've had him I have a picture of him in a camp with a bad defensive stance at like 15 years old. So I've known him for a long time. And then while I got there, it was Ben Gordon was there as well, who was somebody that I had a chance to work with. And then now my second job, in Charlotte, I get to link up with, Kemba, 4 years later, so now I'm in Orlando. I don't get to work with him for 4 years. So now it's like, all right, let me see what you learned. I'll show you what I learned. And it was just a great synergy, and so for him to make all NBA, to be a starter in the All-Star game in Charlotte, I mean, just, you couldn't have scripted it any better from that standpoint, and the way he just elevated his game. And obviously, I hated to lose him just because he's a guy that I've been around for so long, such a good guy, right? Forget the playing, just being around people like him who are just genuine, authentic people. You love to be around them. So obviously, I miss him just from a personal standpoint. But again, it's the NBA. There's business that's involved, and him going to Boston for him, especially with his roots in UConn and stuff like that. I think it made sense for him, in general. And like I said, from a Hornets standpoint, again, I think we've gotten some great guys in the mix now that I love coaching. I know we're going to talk about them, but I think what the Hornets do a great job of is finding good people. They do their due diligence. Working with these young guys that I have now, they're great kids to be around, and it was no different with Kemba.
Leads right up to it. And how can I not touch on those young and hungry Charlotte Hornets? Of course, led by LaMelo Ball, Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier. Right now, they're sitting in 8th and have really scratched and clawed their way to wins and really have kept up with some of the best teams in the NBA. Why is this team playing so good right now?
I think it's the chemistry. I do. I think these guys really love playing for each other. Our management team, scouting department has done a great job of finding guys that love to play basketball. I think it's very underrated, to have guys that love to play. And then now you got guys that love to play together. So you're seeing that, they're willing to make the extra pass. They're willing to make the extra defensive play, to cover a teammate. And, Coach Borrego, again, you got to give him a lot of credit. I mean, it's just with the things that have happened with COVID, injuries and all those kinds of things, it's the next man up mentality. Everybody stays ready in our program to play. There's not one guy that steps on the court that, hasn't been working on their game, hasn't been playing, and playing within the structure of what we do, not just playing pickup, but actually doing things that we do consistently. So when they get on the court, their rhythm and timing is there, conditioning is there. And, so like I said, just with our staff, we've got a great blend of guys, that have, great experience, some young up and coming coaches. Everybody's got a voice. And then the players, I think, sense that, they realize like everybody's here to help us get better and, makes them want to come into practice and give their all. So, I just love the way our guys compete. I mean, it's, again, coach uses the word, resiliency. It's just a very resilient group. They fight through a lot of adversity on a consistent basis and manage a way to, just be in games late. And, I really feel when we're in games late that our coaching staff has the right, end of game scenario situations and put guys in the right situations in order to be successful. And we've seen that in crunch time every single time that they've been in those situations.
I'm sure you heard the noise from NBA fans and kind of everybody who's just watching LaMelo Ball. Early on, he didn't start right off the bat. People weren't so happy with that, but what was it? Why didn't he start right off the bat? Was it getting a relationship with the players, learning the system? And now that he is a starter, just after game 25, he became a starter. Will he be there in a concrete role?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we had some pretty talented guys, that are in the mix that know the system really well. So for, I've been in situations where I've had a lot of talented rookies, lottery pick rookies, guys that have been all-stars in Orlando, under that tree. And, the one thing you'll notice is if you just have guys that are young that just are handed the keys right out the gate, sometimes there's an accountability thing that's, not there, or it's not fair to them to just all of a sudden say, okay, like you don't really know the system and we haven't had a lot of time to work with you in the off season, right? This was a weird off season. So no summer league, no prep time beforehand. So it's a tough scenario to just put anybody in, and say, okay, here you go. We have a very unique style of offense that we run. So I think, what Coach Borrego did was phenomenal, and just the way he's handled things. And I think all in all, like I said, all of our guys, have embraced whatever role they're given, because they know that at the end of the day, we're trying to be about the right things, and we're trying to develop our guys. And, regardless of, starting, not starting, whatever, like all of our guys at one point or another have been in those scenarios, and, they just put up numbers regardless. They've gone out and done what they've needed to do without, letting their mind get in the way. And that's the biggest thing about LaMelo. He's just such a great person. Anything that you read about him or hear about him from the Hornets is that he just brings such great positive energy. He's always smiling, joking. He's like a breath of fresh air, because again, he's a guy who loves to play basketball. He's just another guy that we've added to the mix that loves to play. And so, at the end of the day, again, it's always coach's call. He's always gonna push the right buttons in regards to what's needed for our team. And like I said, just because our guys love playing with each other and they're trying to win games for each other. Again, it really doesn't matter, what a guy's doing, whether he's starting or not starting for our program. So I think at the end of the day, if the right combination of guys is out there, for the first and second unit, that's going to be, the button that Coach Borrego is going to push in order to get us over the hump.
I see that just on TV. You see LaMelo in there. Terry Rozier called him the happiest players to ever play with.
Yeah.
Him and Miles Bridges always laughing and really gaining that chemistry together along with the other guys. So I see that through and through. I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, no, I think it translates. I think you see it. When you're watching them play, and again, just in terms of those kinds of comments that a guy like Terry's making. He's been around for a while. Bismack Biyombo. All these guys love being around him, and like I said, when you have guys that love to hoop and bring that positive energy, it's contagious every day. Now it becomes a little bit more fun to come into work after playing a back-to-back and traveling and those kinds of things, because you got somebody in there that can lighten the mood.
From training camp to now, 32 games in, what's the biggest improvement you've seen LaMelo Ball make?
I think defensively, you're seeing him, just being able to read. He's got an instinctually he's got that, but I think now he's starting to be more calculated, with some of his reads on when to attack the passing lane, and he's starting to see, what the coverages, are, and all those weak side like kind of helps his scenario. So that's something that most people probably wouldn't see, as a casual fan, but as a coaching staff, you're like, yeah, he's starting to figure that stuff out. And then offensively, obviously he's been shooting the ball really well. I think that's something that, maybe was a little bit of a concern for some people, coming into the season, but, obviously he's showing, pretty good consistency in terms of being able to keep people honest, where it's not like, hey, we can just go under on this guy, because he's been making, enough threes to really keep him honest. And then once he gets downhill, he can either score it, or he's tall enough to find guys over the top. And that's what makes him really lethal.
And that guy over the top is, of course, Miles Bridges mostly. He really made strides last year, this season. Is it the combination of LaMelo Ball being in there, hyping him up, getting him going, and just the progress he's made? What exactly is the formula for why he's playing so well?
Yeah, I think those two have a great connection. Obviously, LaMelo knows where to put that ball, perfectly for him. And I think it's nice to have a guy that you can look at and know, hey, I'm going up to go get this, and he's confident enough to throw it, because some of the angles that LaMelo's throwing it from, you're like, oh no, and then all of a sudden it's there and it's being dunked. So he's got an uncanny ability with his right or left hand to throw the pass, and Miles, obviously can go get that ball anywhere. I think Miles he's just a worker. He's a great guy. Again, we asked him to come off the bench. He's been starting for us at the 3 spot, and now he's coming off the bench as the backup 4. And, I think he's, again, a guy that probably, is better suited at the 4 spot. I think there's a lot more mismatches there for him. He's strong. He can post up. He's quick off the bounce, all those kinds of things. So, a guy like him, having a guy like him come off the bench, being that versatile, makes your team that much more dangerous. So, with him, he's just a consummate worker. He's Flint, Michigan guy, Michigan State guy, and obviously I've had a chance to really work with him closely the last few years, and you just love to be around him because he loves hoops.
Another big acquisition for the Hornets this past summer, Gordon Hayward. How much has he meant to the team and the winning culture there?
Yeah, Gordon's been great. Again, just a great person. I'm going to keep saying the same thing over and over again. It's going to get redundant, but great guy. He's a true pro. He's been in meaningful games, been in playoff games, been an all-star, having an all-star level year this year. Really thought he had a chance to make the all-star game. And, just again, he's a prototypical 3, who can score and pass, right? He can make decisions off pick and roll. And so, having a guy with his size and ball handling ability, shooting ability, it's a rare commodity. So to be able to bring a guy like him into the fold, and he's a young guy, but he's older than all of our other guys because we're so young, so it's for him, I know it's been funny to say like, hey, I'm one of the elder statesmen, on the roster because he's still young. But he's been phenomenal to have around, just again, because he brings a calm confidence about himself that translates to our guys, especially when, a team makes a run. He's out there. It's like, it's all right. We got this, so he's been there and done that. And, having a guy like that can really play is just somebody that these guys can look to and have confidence in, game in and game out.
I saw an Instagram picture of you along with some of the Hornets guys just about a year and a half ago. You were getting a run-in with them. It seemed like you were sweating your butt off alongside them. Do you still get in runs and really play with them one-on-one?
Yeah, when I can, when my body's feeling okay, I like to. If it's feeling good, then we're probably going to compete at something. I don't know what it's going to be, but we're going to have some fun competing. For years I would just, I play one-on-one, post up one-on-one with guys, with our big guys. We have fun with my guards. It's something I love to do. It's like a post one-on-one. And then we would do some full court one-on-ones as well. For years I was doing that. I think I might retire the full court ones and stick to post up, old man strength, games now. But yeah, anytime I can get out there and sweat with these guys, it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has a great quote. It's sweat binds more than glue. And I believe in that. I believe that when you're out there, even if it's just for a 45-minute session and you're out there rebounding for guys and sweating with them and everything else like that, they know you're invested. They know that, hey, this guy doesn't have to do this. And when you do that, you just build an instant connection, So for me, that's going to be something that I'm going to continue to try to do for as long as I can.
During your time in Orlando, you had a young Nikola Vucevic really before he made that next step into being a star. He, of course, was just named an NBA All-Star for the first time. How much has he grown since you've had him, and how proud are you of him?
He's been killing for a long time. He's been, there was times there where it's like him and DeMarcus Cousins going back were 1 and 2 in double doubles. I mean, I've been able to see it firsthand for a long time. He early on, I know Coach Borrego worked with them. Matt Hill, who it was with the Atlanta Hawks, did a phenomenal job working with him consistently. And, I was just, kind of just privileged to see him work because he's definitely one of the most skilled bigs that I've ever seen. He can go with either hand, he can shoot the three, he can pass. He's a great guy to be around. He's one of the funniest guys to be around too. He's got a great sense of humor. So he's a guy that you love to see, be successful because he's really put in the time. He's been there when, again, we could barely win 20 games to making the playoffs. And, just with guys that are in a program where they've been at the bottom and been able to see it grow and get to the point where they're a playoff team and contending, that's a big deal. So you always like to hear and see those kinds of stories. And because I was there, I'm definitely always rooting for him.
Another guy down in Orlando that you really, worked with so much and who has so much potential, Jonathan Isaac. He's really caught the injury bug as of late, and we really haven't seen a full season from him. How much potential does he have?
He's got a tremendous amount. He's a guy that probably close to 7 foot if he's not 7 foot. He's got the length. Again, he can put it on the deck. He covers so much ground defensively. And again, it's just great guy. Just a guy that loves to be in the gym. He's a guy that came from a really good program in college, and you understand what he can mean to a franchise and what he can be. So a guy like him, you hate to see anybody get derailed because of injuries, but if there's anybody that's going to overcome those kinds of injuries, it's going to be a guy like him.
Jay, I got to get you on that Dos Equis, I think that's how you say it, that Dos Equis commercial of the most interesting man in the world, because not only do you have a really impressive career, impressive journey, you're also a professional Muay Thai fighter. You were 3-0 in your career, and hearing that along with your other resume in basketball is just extremely impressive. Do players give you crap about it when you tell them about it, and do they not believe you?
It's been a long journey. I've tried a lot of different things. Like I told you, I'm one that if it scares you, I'm probably going to go towards it. That's something that if it scares me, I'm going to go towards it. And I used to do I've always been a fan of the UFC. I used to have way back when the UFC, like UFC 1, you go to like Blockbuster Video and go get the videos and watch it. And so I've always been a fan of the UFC. I've always been a fan of boxing. And so, when it came down to cross training, when I was getting ready to go play in Puerto Rico, that last stint, I linked up locally with a guy, Keith Trimble, who owns and operates Belmore Kickboxing Academy. And he's got a host of champions, boxing champions, MMA world champions. And I linked up with him, and I was just doing some pad work with him, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. He put me through some routines. We jump rope, we do all kinds of ab work, and then I'd hit mitts. And when I came back, I was like, you know what? I want to try doing this. I missed the competitiveness of things. So I joined, Extreme Muay Thai, in, where is it? Not the Valley Stream area, but it's on like the border of Queens. And, so I would go there, and I was like, I want to try to do this. And, I wouldn't mind sparring, it's kind of like, let me see how it is. I didn't realize this was like a fighting gym for Muay Thai. There really wasn't any other Muay Thai gyms around at that point in time. And for those that don't know, Muay Thai is the art of 8 limbs. So you're using your kicks, your knees, your elbows, and your punches. So it's a combination of everything. So I was like, this is gonna be a great workout. So I think that my first week they put me in there with a guy who was getting ready for a fight because we were going to fight somebody that was around my size. And I almost got knocked out in the first round. He hit me so hard. I like blacked out. I went to the to the corner and said, hey, you're gonna have to fight this guy. Like, do whatever you gotta do. He's trying to keep your hands up, whatever. So I was like, all right, I either got to ask for my money back or, I got to figure out how to defend myself properly. So that's what I ended up doing. I started learning over the next 3 months, like, all right, I got to learn how to defend a kick, that's coming my way, or, how to evade punches or whatever. So, because I was an athlete, I started picking up pretty quickly, and then I started sparring, and it was more controlled, and I knew how to handle myself a little bit better. And then eventually got to the point where I was like, you know what, I've been sparring so much. Let me go ahead and test myself against somebody else. I'm one on not having false success. And, hitting a heavy bag really hard, doesn't mean a whole lot. I wanted to make sure, like, all right, if I'm really put in a bad situation, could I defend myself? And so it was really just to test myself. I really don't, I personally don't like to fight, as I've never fought, it's not something that I want. So when I said I was going to do that, people looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what are you talking about? You're going to fight, So I had my first fight in the Bronx, and, went out there, won by TKO. The next one was also in the Bronx the following year. I dropped 40 pounds for the fight. It was like an insane work ethic and workload, and, ended up winning that one by TKO. And then I fought at World Resorts Casino, big show, no gear, no headgear, no shin guards. And, ended up winning that by unanimous decision. And I thought I was going to end up fighting at MSG Theater, for my next fight. It was going to be a big fight. It got canceled. The show got canceled. So we were going to do a documentary with my guy, Thanasis Petrakis, who owns and operates Fresh Focus Sports. And it got canceled. So it became more about the fighter mentality and pre-draft and how we would take them at times to go train in Muay Thai. And I was like Jordan Clarkson and, Tyler Ennis and, Ken Birch and company. It was a bunch of those guys, Noah Vonleh. So it ended up becoming a pretty cool documentary, but, my career ended when I got to the NBA. I said, all right, that's enough of that. But I tell you, the lessons I learned from that, again, I'm using them today in regards to the fighter mentality. I think the guys laugh, some guys don't believe it, and then I have to show them some footage or show them, a picture of me doing it. And they love to hear the stories because it's, there's nothing more truthful than a fight, like if you go in there and you're not completely locked in for the whole time that you're in there, you're going to get knocked out, so there's not one point in time where you can say, I'm going to take a second off here. It's like, you have to be engaged the whole time. And that's what I loved about it. It's like, and that's what I try to translate to our players. It's like, hey, every minute matters. Like, be engaged in the moment, whatever's happening now, or anything else that's happening in your life. If you're on the court, there's nothing you can do about that stuff now. You have to focus on what you can focus on now and be in the present moment. So, I think that's what fighting really did for me, was really be locked into the present moment.
Incredible. Right now, you're getting a taste of being a head coach in the NBA level in the G-League. Your stock is definitely rising. 5 years from now, where do you want to see yourself?
Listen, I love what I'm doing with the Hornets, and again, they're allowing me to grow, as a coach, and that's all I can ask for. So hopefully I can continue to help the Hornets become a contender. That's really the ultimate goal, is just to see the success of the team. That's what I've always been about. Obviously I want to be a head coach at some point in time. I don't know if there's a time limit on that. There's some guys that have been phenomenal coaches for a long time that haven't gotten that shot. But I'm definitely doing these things right now. One, to be able to help the Hornets develop, the young talent in a different way, because I've been doing it within the Hornets, but now this is just a different way to develop talent as well as developing myself. And I would love to be a head coach. That's what it's all about. So that by getting these head coaching reps and showing people, how I've been able to manage the team, how I've been able to do things from, kind of start to finish, how I handle, collaborating and talking with management and the coaches, dealing with rehab treatments and strength and conditioning. It's everything is really on me right now, which is great, and that's kind of how I want it. And that's what our head coach has to deal with. There's so many different things. So I don't want to just be somebody, who's got some great micro skills, and, is really good in those areas. I want to continue to build so that I could look at stuff more on a macro level, the way that a head coach would, and eventually be able to run the whole ship. That's really what it comes down to. So hopefully, like I said, for me, it's more about team success. And then, whatever comes from that team success, I know there's going to be individual stuff that comes from that.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was episode 27 of Inside Buzz. I'm your host, Mikey Domagala. That was Jay Hernandez, head coach of the Greensboro Swarm and assistant coach of the Charlotte Hornets. If you want to keep up with Jay on Instagram and social media, follow him at Coach Jay Hernandez. Jay, thanks for giving me the time, and good luck with everything in the bubble.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Hopefully, you'll be doing ESPN in 5 years, and I'll be a head coach somewhere, and we'll be able to reconnect and talk about this time.